Hi everyone, this is Dawn Taylor with Members First. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. We are talking about digital signs here at Members First, so it's another opportunity for you to be able to communicate with your members. I'm going to go ahead and click through, and just a real quick housekeeping note for you. You are all on mute. There in your GoToWebinar panel, there is a question box. So we do certainly welcome any questions you have throughout the presentation. I'm going to do a brief kind of PowerPoint presentation on the digital sign, and then I'm going to jump into our demo site. It's probably about 30 minutes in total, including Q&A at the end. So any questions that you do include here in the box, I will answer towards the end of the presentation. Okay, so let's go ahead and minimize that and get started. So working with so many clubs, I've been with Members First about 13 years and working with so many of you on promoting your events, and you're using your website, you're so diligent, you're posting on your calendar, you're posting highlights. Many of you have our mobile app, and you're posting events on the app, and you're sending targeted emails, targeted push notifications. In many cases, you're sending hard copy mail with invitations to some larger events, and you're also using social media. And I know you can't answer this question because you're all on mute, but how many of you still have members that come in to the club and say they didn't know about a certain event on Saturday night? I think most of you could stand on the roof of your club with a megaphone and actually shout out what your events are, and you still have members that come to you and say, gee, I didn't know about that event on Saturday night. So this is another way that you can communicate with them when they're actually at the club. Your members are familiar with digital signs. Many of them probably travel, as all of us travel. When you're in airports, you often see digital signs communicating with travelers. When you check into a hotel, the lobby of the hotel typically has a digital signboard where you can get information on their restaurant hours, some things that might be happening in the community, maybe a 5-day weather forecast for you. We're in the Boston area, and we see lots of digital signs just traveling around to and from work in the area on giving us traffic updates and whatnot. So we're very familiar with digital signs. And when I go to clubs, it's nice to see in different parts of the club where you can have a digital signboard, and you can show what kind of events are happening at the club, whether it's in your golf pro shop or your tennis pro shop, out by your pool maybe, or even in your front lobby area. So let's talk a little bit about the layout. We've created 5 different layouts for our digital sign displays. The way they work, and this is one of them, this tends to be one of our more popular ones, where you can see you have, and this is a static image, but on the real digital sign, which I'll show you in a few minutes, all of your events from the calendar that you've assigned to your digital sign will scroll. You also have your space up at the top for your branding, your club's logo, your color scheme. You have the date and time over to the right. And if you're utilizing our announcement feature on your website, you can also have any of those announcements scrolling along the top of your display here. Also, from your calendar, you not only have the event, but if you've tagged it in the actual content of the event, the location, in this case, the grill room or the Golden Gate Hall or the pavilion, wherever your event is will show up here, as well as the actual day and time, as long as that is tagged in the actual event on your website. Over here, what you would have is a rotating photo gallery. So many of you are updating photos following events, so you can have your rotating photo gallery here on the digital sign. So this is great if you have a different section for your golf shop or your tennis shop versus your front lobby. You can actually have different photos that would show up here, as well as different events on your calendar. And then each of the displays has an area for the local weather, and you can set this up, as you see here, on somewhat of an hourly basis, or you can have it more of a 5-day forecast, which tends to work a little bit better for most clubs to give more of a long-range forecast. To break down the other layouts, you can see these two at the top also have the rotating calendar, but instead of a photo gallery, this particular layout is going to pull certain flyers. So whether you're using the template flyers that we provide through the MembersFirst website, or if you're creating your own through InDesign or some other design program, you can upload those to your website for the actual promotion of the event, and then you can also assign it to the digital display, which I'll show you how to do in just a minute. And then as you can see, they each have the different weather icons. This one has that rotating calendar, but instead of a photo gallery or flyers, it actually has the little highlights. So on your highlights or your inserts that you may be putting on your individual section pages, you can actually tag that piece of content to show up here. And again, it would rotate. So if you had multiple ones, multiple inserts or highlights here, they would rotate through for you. Down here at the bottom, instead of a rotating calendar, you can have your flyers that rotate. So you can have the flyers rotating in this bigger section, and then you can have the inserts or highlights up here that would also rotate depending on how many you've tagged. This particular layout also has the larger flyers, which will rotate. And then instead of the inserts or highlights, you can have your photo gallery. So it brings back in that photo gallery. So you have several different choices of layouts, and you can have multiple layouts on different, or you can have a different layout with each of your screens if you choose to. Also, one of the things to mention is that the way we set this up is that we constantly ping out to the digital display TV screen so that it doesn't ever go to sleep. So for those of you who know, when you're working on your computer and if you walk away and leave it for a certain amount of time, there's often a setting where it'll just kind of go to sleep and shut down. It will never do that. It will stay running continuously. So let's talk real quick about how it works, and then I'll actually show you on the demo site how it will work. You basically create your content within your website. So whether that's an insert or a highlight, a calendar, an event on your calendar, or your photo gallery, you create it on the website. And then those of you that are MembersFirst clients, this probably looks familiar. This is something I captured here, the breadcrumb trail, as you can see from the homepage of my admin side or content management system. You can see I went into the club calendar. So these are events that would be on my calendar. And I chose a particular event, wine tasting. And then you can see here under general, full page text and registrations, this is really what you're using to create that event on the calendar. You're pulling in a template or a flyer. You're putting all the information about the event. If you're using registrations, you're setting up the registration here for the event. And then when you get into your nav sections, this is where you actually assign this event or piece of content. So in this case, I have it on my private side of the website, the member side, and I've assigned it to the app homepage. I've assigned it to the website member homepage, and I've assigned it to my dining and social homepage because it is a wine event. And then you can see down here, I've assigned it to digital sign number 1. So in this case, I have all my digital signs displays set up here, and I would just click which one I would like to assign it to, or multiple if I had multiples. And that's really it. That's all you have to do. You're already creating the content, and it's just a matter of tagging your digital sign of where you'd like it to be. And then almost as easy as assigning the content is actually the hardware setup for it. So your requirements for hardware are basically just an internet-ready TV that needs to be connected to a computer. You can use any type of computer. You could even use an Apple TV box. This is a little Belkin, or sometimes they're HP boxes. We've purchased a couple of these that we use in our office. So you don't have to have a big hard drive computer, but you can utilize some of these smaller computer systems. As long as your TV is internet ready and you've connected it to your computer. More importantly is you want your TV to have a resolution of 1920 by 1080. So any of you who have like a Best Buy or any store like that in your area, you can go talk to them and find out what they recommend, but these are really your 2 requirements. That's really all you need. You could use Wi-Fi to set up, if you have a computer running in your office or in another room and you want to hook it through the Wi-Fi, you can do that, but I would just caution you if your Wi-Fi isn't super stable, Ours, I know in the office here in Massachusetts, even sometimes our Wi-Fi just goes down and we just plug in. So it's probably a little bit easier or more consistent just to have a plug for your digital display, so it doesn't go down and you're not even aware of it if it goes down. And that's really it for your hardware requirements. So let's jump into the demo. I'm going to exit out of this. Just bear with me 1 second. And I am going to pull up, in this case, my first digital display sign. So this is an example of the digital display number 1. I have the Club at Neptune Cove, which is my demo site. Many of you are very familiar with Neptune Cove. So you have your logo here for your branding. You can choose your color scheme, of course, so that it matches your branding. Your date and time will be pulled here. If you are using the announcements within the website, so many clubs are using the announcements on the website, whether it's the public side or the member side, to make members or guests aware of something happening. Maybe you're doing some maintenance in your pool and you had to close the pool for a day, or your golf course, for example. If you do have those announcements, you just tag them that you want them on your digital display, and the announcements will scroll straight across the top. Also on your calendar, as you can see, your events are scrolling through. You see the name of the event, the room that it's going to be hosted in, and then your date and time. And then over here, this is the one that had the photo gallery. So here you have a bunch of cute photos. And again, you can have different content being displayed in different areas. So your tennis shop versus your golf shop might have different photos and different events scrolling. And then you have your 5-day forecast here, okay? And then if I jump over to a different digital display, this is, you can see the same kind of branding, same type of border, but this is the one that allows you to scroll your flyers through, as you can see. You can have, again, as many as you want. You can have as many calendar events scrolling. You can have as many flyers as you want. But of course, people aren't going to stand around for an extensive time, so you don't want to have too many, and you want to refresh them regularly. What we typically would tell people on the calendar, depending on how busy the club is, if it's a busy time of year, you might want to have just a kind of a week at a glance, because you'll have multiple events on multiple days. If you're a little bit in a slower time of year, maybe you have 2 weeks or a month so that you're not having dead space and you're not seeing just all the same ones, but you have a handful of events that are scrolling. And then you can see here, this also has a photo gallery that's scrolling, and I have my weather display. In this case, it's by sort of hourly. And at any of these little boxes, I can click here, and you can get a different view on this. It moves it right forward, okay? All right, so let's jump over to the actual demo site and show you how you would actually set up this content. So I am going to go right into Neptune Cove, my demo site. Here is that announcement. Welcome to our new website provided by MembersFirst. This is the announcement that I showed you that was scrolling across digital sign number 1. So the particular content that you can have on your sign that you can assign to the sign can be an event that comes from your calendar. It can be your highlights or inserts that you have on your website, as you see here as I scroll down. These are what I would refer to as my inserts or highlights. And then I also have my upcoming events, which this is my calendar at a glance. So I'm going to click on my weekend regatta for Saturday, tomorrow. And I am logged in as an administrator, which many of you are very familiar with this, but I have my flyer here. And then I have this little edit page toolbar up here because I'm an administrator. So if I click on this, it's going to open up the content management system, and it's going to pull this piece of content into it. Now, if I was creating this new, I would assign this to the digital sign the same way, but this just happens to be an existing event on my calendar. So you can see this is my full page text tab. Again, if I was setting up registrations, I would do it from here. And then I have my nav sections tab. So as you can see, I have this set up for my calendar at a glance on the member homepage. I also have it on the public side of my website because I have a calendar on that homepage on Neptune Cove. And then right now I have it assigned to digital sign number 2. So I'm going to go ahead and just click and make that available on digital sign number 1 as well. And then I'm just going to go ahead and save that. Close that little window, and then if I go back to digital sign number 1 and just simply refresh, here's my weekend regatta. So this is the one I just populated in here. So it happens instantaneous for you. So now one other thing, and then I'll open it up for Q&A, is I'm going to go back into my admin side in the content management system. Now what I did is from the home page of the content management system, I chose from my quick links my calendar of events. And by doing that, it takes me to an area where I can choose the nav section in a particular month. In this case, I want to know May. And if I drop down my nav sections, these are all the different nav sections I have on my demo site. And you can see my multiple digital signs. And if I click on digital sign number 1 and just hit search, this will tell me everything from my calendar that is on digital sign number 1. So you can really keep track of it. You will have access to this in the inserts maintenance, your club calendar, as well as your photo gallery. So any of this content that you are displaying on the digital signs, you would be able to see a full inventory of it. And then these events, of course, if they're on your calendar, they will drop off once the date drops off. If it happens to be an insert or a highlight, you can expire that content on a certain day. So it works very similar to your calendar so that it's not sitting out there on a past due date. And then of course your photo galleries, you can go in and swap those out at any point in time. Okay, and here happens to be that weekend regatta that we just set up from the website calendar over to the digital display. Okay, so that really concludes our walkthrough of the system and the presentation. It's fairly straightforward. So what I'm going to do is just open up my question panel. Just bear with me 1 second and we will get to some questions. Okay. Okay, let's see what we have for questions. So, one of the questions came in, can we show different events on different TVs? So yes, you can. So the way it works is you have, you can set up your, you can have one display of your digital sign, and then you can set up different nav sections as we refer to them. So under those nav sections. So what that means is you can have multiple, you can have the same look and feel, the same display, but you can have multiple different events on each of those displays. So like I said, your tennis shop can have different events or photos, and your golf shop could have different events or photos. What we had a question earlier this morning, and I will go ahead and just include it in with this and answer it, is that you, from a pricing standpoint, the way it works. So the good news is there's no annual fee associated, and your, if you had one TV with one display, you would have a one-time fee of $1,200. If you wanted to have multiple TVs but the same display, but the ability to have different content within those displays, you just pay an extra $100 for those additional the same display, but the additional nav sections as we refer to them. So for example, if you had 3 TVs, you paid for the first one at $1,200, and then you wanted the same display but multiple nav sections on the other 2, it would just be $200 extra, so it'd be $1,400. And as an existing Members First client, you have access to either loyalty money from our previous loyalty program or our customer appreciation program we run now, so you can apply discounts to that price as well. And there is no annual fee for you, so that's always a good thing. Okay, so let me just look at the other questions. How do you view the website tab that shows a preview of what the digital sign looks like from your computer? So you wouldn't, so your digital design, your digital display, let me just get out of this. Let me go back to this. This is considered a section page. So you would have your URL with /digitalsign-1 or digitalsign-2. So as you're updating your content and it's feeding to your actual digital display, you can go to this URL and you can actually see what it's going to look like. Now, the reason we suggest your TV be at the resolution, the appropriate resolution, the 1080 by 1920, is so that that's how the actual display or the design the display is designed. So it fits that. When I look at it on my laptop, it doesn't display as evenly as it does here because this is you're seeing this on a full TV. So you want to be able to open this up on a good size monitor so you can see what it looks like. You can see your photos scrolling. You can see your highlights scrolling in your calendar as well. So it's a great question. Also, it's another question about assigning photos. So when you upload your photos and build your album, same process, you would go in and just assign the photo album to however your, and we would set this up for you in the implementation, but however wherever your photo albums are set up on the website, you can also then assign them to your digital display. And you would just need to know which digital sign has the actual photo album. So in this case, my digital sign number 1 has the photo album. Digital sign number 2 didn't have a photo album, but it had those highlights or inserts. So you would just have to know which sign you're moving your photos over to. Those are great questions. Let me see what else we have for questions. I have another one coming in, it looks like. Oh, what is the timing? So the timing is typically about 45 days. So from kicking off the project. So that basically is we need to just work with you on the layout, the design as far as the colors, your logo, and it's about 45 days from kicking off the project and you of course have to get the hardware. Another question, can you tell us more about the hardware needed? Yeah, so the hardware basically is depending on how many of the display signs you want, you would purchase those as TVs basically. You could go to any local like Best Buy or whatever store is convenient for you. You want to just make sure it's an internet ready TV and that it has that resolution. I always forget it. It's 1920 by 1080 resolution, and I have a document I can send as well so that you have all this information. So when you go to the store, you can say, this is what I need. I need an internet-ready computer, or sorry, TV, and then you need to have it hooked up to a computer. So some kind of hard drive. So like I had said, we've used these in the past, these little, let me just move my little panel over. These smaller devices, my IT person said you can also use Apple TV. And then what I do recommend is having it kind of set up with the TV so you can kind of plug it into the internet so that you're not relying on Wi-Fi, because sometimes the Wi-Fi can be a little unreliable. At least I know here in our MembersFirst office sometimes it is. But so that would be all I would really suggest as far as that goes. And that's really it for hardware. You just need like a place to set it up on your wall. Or even if you had a table you wanted to with a stand, you could put it on a table somewhere in your lobby or whatever on a stand. But I was at a club just last week, and they had one in their front reception desk when I walked in. It was right behind the receptionist. And then when we had lunch at the club, there was one right when you walked into the dining area. And then there was one right outside of their locker rooms on the wall. And then there was another one in their, it was a golf country club, so there was one right inside the golf pro shop as well. And they had the same display, but they had different nav sections, so they had different content scrolling on each of them. So it was great. It was, again, it's another means of communicating to your members. And I know for me, whenever I check into a hotel or go to the airport, I always look at the displays to see what they're trying to inform me of. These are great questions. Let me see if any others are in. Can we use an iPad was another question. You could use an iPad. It wouldn't likely be the right resolution though, so the display wouldn't be optimal. We would really have to condense the design of it in the display, so I wouldn't recommend it if you can. The TVs aren't that big and they're so thin and flat, they don't really take up much use, and so I think you'd get a better experience for your members if you had the full-size TV with the 1920 by 1080 resolution. I think that is all for questions. Just so you know, we are recording this. We will upload it to the administrative side of your website, the admin side of the website down in the bottom right corner where we set up all of our webinars. So you can access this recording from there. And another question did come in. Can you explain further about the smaller device instead of a computer? So the smaller device really is a computer. It's just a smaller computer. So you don't need the full old style kind of hard drive computer, but you can set up one of these smaller. We have an HP one here in the office. You can purchase them at any, like I said, a Best Buy you could purchase it at. This is a Belkin device, but they serve the same purpose, and it's very small and discreet, and you can just kind of plug it right into the TV, the monitor display. So if that is it for questions, then like I said, this is recorded. I will have it uploaded early next week into the admin side of the site. I will also send out an email. We'll send out an email with a link to the recording. Any additional questions or anything I can answer, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. My email address is on the screen. My phone number is 508-310-2360. Or Sean Blyle, who's also my counterpart in crime over here. If you are working with him, you can always reach him as well, sblyle, B-L-E-Y-L, @membersfirst.com. And other than that, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for all of your time, and have yourself a great weekend.